Tonight I wanted to talk to you about slide storing your wine and how to properly store your wine, because let's be real, wine is a delicious, amazing, wonderful commodity, and to store it improperly is so sad, because what if you open the bottle and then it turns into vinegar? We don't want that, right? You don't want that. That's a no-no. That's a no-no. You want it to be like this and amazing to drink. Ooh, look at the legs. Hello. Hey girl. So if you know anyone that could use this awesome sauce, like tips on how to store their wine, please invite them to this video. And of course, if you share it, you know what? Since we're here on the Wine Diva Tiara page, we're gonna do a special little raffle. So when you share this video, comment shared in the comments, and I will enter you in a raffle to win one of my favorite, I don't know why it had to be that intense. One of my favorite wine accessories. Okay. So, for those who don't know me, I am Tiara, aka T, your wine diva, helping you live a fun-filled, wonderful life by taking the whining out of finding wines that you are going to love and enjoy. I'm also your diva director, helping you unleash your inner diva so you can live your best life. And this handsome gentleman on my left is the one, the only, who are you?
Jay.
Mr. J. And today we're talking your storage. So first things first, if you see all these bottles behind me, they are beautifully laid on their side. Why are they laid on their side? Well, and these ones aren't, if you can see all the way over there. So the ones that are laid on their side actually do have a cork in them. See all the corks? They have a cork in them, and then the ones that do not are actually a twist off. And that is very important. When you have a cork for your bottles of wine, to have them laying on their side so that the cork can stay dry. And I wanted to say dry, to stay moist, to stay wet. You don't want it to dry out. So shout out to my girl Heather, who sent me an SOS message earlier this week, because she was trying to open a bottle of wine and the cork just was crumbling all over the place, and it just was not working at all. So that was unfortunate. But we were able to work through it, pushing the cork in, get a cheesecloth and pour it, and she was able to enjoy her wine. But because if the wine is stored upright and it has a cork, the cork is going to dry out. And when the cork dries out, then it's gonna crumble, and it's gonna have that sort of thing happening to it. So it's very important to keep your corks moist. So that's why you wanna stay on the side. Another thing to keep in mind when you are storing your wine, if you do have the space for it, trying to store it somewhere that the temperature is not gonna fluctuate. So not in your kitchen, not in your attic, not in your, garage, but somewhere that is pretty stable, like a closet. Like if you can do that, if you can have a wine closet, which I think is an amazing thing to have, a wine closet. If you can have a wine closet, then have a wine closet and store your wine there. If you can have like a wine refrigerator, that's even better, because you can control the temperature, because your wine should be below about 55 degrees. Okay, so if you can do that, that would be perfect. If not, well, you know what? Drink your wine. That's what I gotta say. Just try to drink it. There's things to think about, like if you store it in your kitchen, or I know a lot of people like to store it above their the refrigerator, which the refrigerator is actually pretty hot. When your wine gets starts getting to 80 degrees, your wine starts to cook, and you don't want cooked wine, because you cook it off, the flavor is not going to be right, the alcohol is going to be cooked out of it. So we want to make sure that you're keeping the quality of your wine. So keeping it somewhere that is not going to get hot is going to be perfect, but also keeping it somewhere where it's going to get cold and like extreme temperatures either side, it's not going to be very helpful for. So if you're keeping it somewhere that the wine could actually freeze, that could also change up the quality of the wine and change up the flavor of it, right? Yeah. Jay's just standing off the side of the camera now. He's just staring at my glass like, are you gonna share? Are you gonna share? You want some? You ate
it on my top lip.
You're so welcome, Heather. You're so welcome. So yeah, storing your wine on its side, storing your wine somewhere where it is like temperature controlled is gonna be great. Storing it in a dark place is even better. So your wine can just kind of be left alone so it can do its own aging and do its own like wine in a bottle is just like its own little like ecosystem, if you will. Like it's doing its own aging, it's doing its own like small little bits of oxygen are coming through that cork and doing some things with it. So flavors are like maturing in there. So whenever you hear someone say like a wine is tight, that means that it has a great opportunity to be aged for a couple more years. And you know, although it might taste great now, but like in 5 years, that wine could taste amazing, but it's not going to be able to get there if it's not stored properly. So keeping it somewhere that is going to be temperature controlled, that's not going to be too hot, not going to be too cold, perfect. Keeping it on its side if it has a cork so that the cork doesn't dry out and like get warped or anything like that. Awesome sauce. Also, let's talk about like the transportation of your wine. So a lot of times, like if you get wine from me, it's going to be shipped to you by like FedEx, and they do sometimes put it in like a temperature controlled like unit. Our winery is very particular about like when they send out wine. So like say you ordered in like the dead of like winter or like super crazy month during the summer, they may hold it just so it doesn't like something doesn't happen to it while it's in like in the trucks. And that was one of my concerns because we moved in the end of August, and I was like, oh my gosh, my wine's gonna boil sitting in a truck for like a week. Ah! Like I was like so scared, but I like packed it in really tight and I had it in these really awesome boxes. So it did come back like awesome sauce. I haven't had a bad, knock on wood, bottle yet. So let me know, do you know what corked wine is and how you can tell if a bottle of wine is corked? So when you are traveling with your wine, you want to make sure that like you don't leave your wine in your car. I had a friend say it earlier today, and I thought it was like a perfect analogy. Think of your wine as like your perishables, like your ice cream, your whatever. So it's the last thing you want to put in your car before you go home. You don't want to like, you know, put some wine in your car and like, you know, take it to work or whatever and like leave it in your car at work unless you are in like a very beautiful day and it's like 50 degrees outside and it's not really going to do anything. I've definitely heard crazy stories of like someone was like, oh well, like I picked up my wine from FedEx and I left it in like the back of my car, and then I went to the beach and it was in my car for like a week, and then it's Florida, so it got to like 110 degrees and now my wine's gross. And I'm like, well, don't do that. You should not do that. You should definitely take care of it, treat it like your ice cream, treat it like a loved, desired possession, and put it somewhere that it's going to be like temperature controlled and it's going to live its best life. It's living its best life. Yeah, does that make sense? Am I making sense to you? So to answer the question about corked wine, so a lot of like, yes, wine comes with corks in it, but a wine can be corked, is considered corked when it's gone bad. So when you open that bottle of wine, you might want to smell the cork. If you don't know, like you're not familiar with it, maybe it's like been on a shelf for a really long time, you have no idea how it's been aged, you might want to smell that cork to see like what it smells like. And if it smells like vinegar or wet dog or just like gross, like your wine should smell like wine. Then if it's not smelling good, then obviously there's something wrong with it. You're more than welcome to pour it in the glass, swirl it around and have a sip. But if it is smelling like vinegar, it's smelling gross, then your wine is corked. And that is also a big portion of your storing methods, is it's keeping your wine from getting corked. You don't want your wine to go bad. So I hope these were helpful tips for you. I hope you got some value out of this. I hope you now know how to properly store your wine. And of course, like I said earlier, if you do not have a wine fridge, if you don't have a place that's temperature controlled, then of course just drink your wine. And as always, if you ever need help finding a wine that you are going to enjoy, send me a message and I would love to help you. All right, have an awesome wines day. Cheers, love.